As of a minute ago, Adrian Wojnarowski has reported that the Chicago Bulls have acquired Lauri Markkanen via sign and trade, and they have signed him to a 4-year deal at $67 million. The trade's return for the Chicago Bulls still remains to be seen, but I want to talk about what this means for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the short term and in the long term, and why I think this is a really, really weird fit and nowhere near where I would have expected Lauri Markkanen to go. Subscribe to the channel if you want more NBA content like this. Leave a like down below if you do enjoy the video. But let's talk about the short-term fit for Lauri Markkanen and then the long-term fit. So let's look at this team next year. As currently constructed, trades could happen. They have Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, Kevin Love, Lauri Markkanen, and Larry Nance Jr. in the front court. That's a problem. Because Jarrett Allen's starting at center. You just gave him money. Kevin Love is on money and your vet. Or Evan Mobley, who you just took as the 3rd overall pick, is probably starting at the power forward spot. So you just signed a nice young player at 24 years old in Lauri Markkanen who can give you a little bit of spacing and three-point shooting off the bench and a little bit of rebounding, but nothing else much outside of that. And you just gave him significant money. You just gave him 4 years, $67 million. That is significant money. And he's going to be off the bench. He might be the 4th guy in your front court. He very well might be. And that's a problem. I don't understand what the purpose of Cleveland locking up money is into this deal. Now, we don't know the guarantees on this deal. Maybe the last couple of years on this deal are not overly guaranteed. And if so, then it's not as bad. But I feel like that's probably not the case. Maybe his last year isn't fully guaranteed. But outside of that, this is $16.75 million per year. And this is a team that was just saying that they didn't want to pay Colin Sexton. Now, sure, you could say this is a lot less money than what Colin Sexton's going to get. Maybe they're not comfortable with Colin Sexton's value. Okay, that's fine. But long term, then, you're paying Garland soon. Okoro is still young and has to get paid at some point if you want to keep him a few years down the line. Jarrett Allen just got paid. Evan Mobley's already a young piece. So long term, it doesn't make sense either. So let's talk about the long term fit. Your front court is Jalen Allen and Evan Mobley, right? That's what they've just committed to. Now, Mobley, sure, haven't given him an extension, yada yada, but they just took him with a 3rd overall pick for a reason. You would think. That's your guy. They obviously believe in him. I think he's going to be a very good big, one of the best big men in the league, whether that's at the power forward spot or at the center spot. And you already have Jarrett Allen. You just locked him up for the next 5 years, so he's not going anywhere. That's your center of the future. So barring a trade here, it doesn't make sense, but then why would you acquire Markkanen to then make a trade with one of your young players that you have under team control for 5 years in Jarrett Allen and 4 years in Evan Mobley? Now you bring in someone who you have under team control for 4 years again in Lauri Markkanen, and he's not even going to start for you. Now, Lauri Markkanen's a fine player, and he is probably best coming off of the bench, but that is a lot of money for a Cleveland team that has to dish out a lot of contracts over the next few years for someone who's going to be coming off of the bench. And Lauri Markkanen's a fine player in his role, but his role is very limited. His scoring has gotten worse since his 2nd season, and he is only really a spacer. He's not doing much off the dribble. He's not doing much down in the low block or in the paint. He's a 3-point shooter and spacer. That's what he is. He's not great defensively. He's not great in pick and rolls. I have a lot of concerns about this signing for Cleveland. Next year, I don't know how they're going to assign minutes with Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, Kevin Love, Larry Nance, who I know has been involved in trade talks, and now Lauri Markkanen. And long term, as far as you just gave someone in Lauri Markkanen who's not going to be an overly significant part of your team, at least as far as I'm concerned, he shouldn't be moving forward compared to Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. But they've just committed to paying almost $17 million a year on average for the next 4 years for him, which I just don't think is a wise use of their cap space in any sense. Now, again, we don't know the contracts going back yet. Maybe the contracts match. But either way, long term, 4 years, I don't care if the salaries match or don't. $16.75 million average cap hit. Lauri Markkanen on a team that has a lot of young players they have already signed, and Jarrett Allen, or will continue to have to sign potentially, and Mobley, Garland, Sexton, and Okoro. It just doesn't make sense to me for someone who's not a core part of your team. He's a good bench piece. but he's not a core part of your team. He's not even a starter. He doesn't even fill a weakness on the team. And so if I'm a Cleveland fan, I don't know how I feel about this move. I think long term, it's not ideal. And next year, I don't know how they play them all. Now, within me recording this, it has been mentioned that as part of the trade is Cleveland will get Lauri Markkanen, Portland will get Portland. The Bulls will get Derrick Jones Jr. and Portland's lottery protected first round pick, and the Portland Trailblazers will get Larry Nance Jr. So essentially, the Bulls will get Derrick Jones Jr. The Trailblazers will get Larry Nance. A first also goes the way of the Chicago Bulls, meaning that Larry Nance Jr. apparently has higher value than Derrick Jones Jr., which is interesting to me. And then Lauri Markkanen, of course, is headed Cleveland. So Larry Nance Jr. won't be a part of this team, so it does free up the front court a little bit. But, I mean, Kevin Love, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and Lauri Markkanen is still an absolute abundance in terms of the front court players they have, the youth they have. And it kind of eliminates options as far as trading contracts for other trades for Cleveland moving forward in this offseason. I know they were talking about Kyle Anderson, Dillon Brooks, potential rumors there. Larry Nance was going to be a contract that was probably going to have to be involved because they don't have that many significant contracts on this team. They have C.D. Osman, they have Kevin Love, who of course is not necessarily a positive one. And that's kind of about it. So I think this is a weird trade for me for Cleveland. In a separate video, I'll talk about what this means for the Chicago Bulls as well as the Portland Trailblazers as the other part of this 3-team trade. But let me know, Cleveland fans, what you guys think of this move. Because personally, I don't think it's a very wise move long term. I think it's already a crowded front court. Even, of course, Kevin Love's not there long term. But even still, I think you have your core pieces. Bringing in someone else in your front court whose role is very limited and hasn't done anything great over the last couple of years at this much money, I don't like it. I don't like it personally. Fine player, but I don't like the contract. I don't like the fit in Cleveland. So let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. If you did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you want to hear my thoughts on Chicago Bulls and Portland Trailblazers end of this sign and trade, then be sure to stay tuned and subscribe to the channel as I will upload a video on that later today. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.